Okay, I'm just going to ask everyone to mute their phones, mute their computers first before we start, all right? So, hi everyone, this is Koh Joh Ju. You can call me JJ for short. We do a series of webinars for small businesses. We started off about 2 months back with how to write a press release. Then a month later, we did how to pitch to the media. And this time around, we're doing about visual communications. The thing about communications per se, right? Because I've been doing this for 25, 30 years. Robin, who's here on the call as well, he's been doing it for longer than that. Now, what happens is that over the years, I find that it used to be generally all text, but now in recent times, I have to think about the visuals that go with the press release, go with the social media posts and things like that. So everything is a little bit more visual right now. And attitudes to visuals have also changed a lot, okay? But one thing that remains is that people still think that using sex will sell a product or a service. So let's see, right? Let me just introduce ourselves. My name is Koh Joh Ju. I'm with Vermilion Pinstripes. On the call together, we have a few other folks like Veronica. She's also with Vermilion Pinstripes. We actually came together to create this agency. We're international modern sales, marketing, and communications agency. Oh, just hang on. Oh, hang on. You guys can't see my slides?
No.
Oh.
I have the YouTube on.
Oh, I didn't know that. I'm so sorry. Can you see this now?
Yep.
Okay, great.
Yep.
So sorry about that. So Veronica and I came together to set up Vermilion Pinstripes. We're focusing on using sales, marketing, and communications to help businesses thrive with confidence. So a lot of things that we do center around how you communicate to your audience and how you market to them. Now let me just oh, it's not moving. Oh, okay, it's moving. Let me just introduce myself and then the rest of the panelists. My name is Koh Joh Ju. I've been in communications for the last 25 or 30 years. I'm based out of Singapore. I do primarily B2B communications. That means working for businesses like really boring stuff like construction firms, you know, life science companies, etc. I also have, over the years, worked with some B2C, it means business consumer businesses, like a restaurant group and things like that. So it's quite a mixed bag of clients that I have. Veronica, what about yourself?
For me, I'm in business development and sales for a long time before I switched to marketing about 20 odd years ago. So my job is to help customers sell without selling, and combining all the marketing technologies and sales technologies to humanize human engagements.
Thank you. We have just someone who just joined us, Doreen. Hi, Doreen.
Hello.
Okay, Stuart, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Stuart Lyall. I'm a corporate photographer and videographer. I'm based on the mid-north coast of Australia. I work alongside Veronica, and we help businesses grow by producing relevant visual content, focusing on emotional attachment to the products and the services altogether. And we basically do this by pinpointing the customer's pain points, showing empathy and demonstrating how their problems are solved. That's sort of how we produce the content. We look at, look at
Cool.
basically focusing on the emotional attachments overall. So, yeah.
Okay, so we have someone new who just was joining us as well. Hang on.
Mike.
Mike, yeah. Okay, so FangTing, over to you.
Hi, I'm FangTing. You can call me FT. I'm actually a brand and visual communications designer. And I actually started out not as a designer, but actually as a communications professional. So that's how I've come to know Koh Joh Ju. And right now I've been doing design for about 8 years now, and I've come to bridge actually both of my backgrounds together, helping businesses actually balance the creative output with their business needs, and I'm enjoying that very much.
Thanks, FT. All right, so I'm going to go into the next one. So let's just talk about what we're going to talk about today on today's agenda. There's a few things. We'll start off with visual communications and the types of visual communications, print ads, TV ads, and then the visual assets, the different types of assets. Then we're going to go into the steps 1, 2, 3 on how you can develop your brand and visual comms assets, and close that off with an example. All right. So what is visual communications? Like I said, when I do communications, whether it's for media relations or social media, etc., there's always something that we have to put out in the picture. Why? Because it helps to convey the ideas, the concepts, the information that we're putting out to the public, whether it's for education, whether it is to get them to do something, take an action, etc. So this visual comms can be text. You can just have bold words, right? I mean, the common one you see is a stop sign, or graphics, or video. This one, I put it out because this was done by New Zealand. They have a new campaign now, and it's called Keep It Real Online. They use someone talking? Yeah. Hang on. So this one is from New Zealand. Keep It Real Online. That's by the government. They are putting this out as a part of a package to a campaign to talk about pornography online. So they said that a lot of young Kiwis are using porn to learn about sex. So in the whole context of things, I just show you one picture, but if you look at it, this is what they have on their website. The whole website is called Keep It Real Online. So they have all the tools and information for families to use. So porn is one, but there's also cyberbullying, online grooming, and how you can report unsavory content, okay, to the authorities. This, on the other hand, is not keeping it real. So we picked this, okay, Stuart, myself, Veronica, and FangTing, we picked this because we thought that, this is an example of a bad ad, because when you look at this, you have to think, all right, how is my customer going to receive this visual information? So which also means that as a brand, what are you trying to tell your audience or your customer? We picked this. We like this one. This is a Durex ad. And we thought it was really cute because that's the price of the product that they have. And then there's a price of this adorable armchair for babies. IKEA is another one. They're very smart in using visuals and text. So what they did was that they made it funny. They said, don't worry, Harry's still available, for one of their chairs. This one, we like this one as well because it doesn't have any words, but it is a product that cleans windows, and it shows. I'm going to go into sharing the ads that we have here. Oh, hang on.
Jojo, you may have to get out of the view.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, unfortunately, I can't. Hang on, yeah. I need to stop share for a while.
While you're getting that on, maybe what I can add is visual communications. The whole idea is about giving context to stories, right? So all the visuals which Jojo had shared is about visuals that can expand what verbal text means, right? And the main thing is how do we use visual communications to attract people and to get to their attention, to raise curiosity, and of course to evoke an emotional feeling. So because of that, that's why we have visual comms, and we know that people retain visuals a lot better than just plain text, right? And that's why, Adam, when you were having your previous business, it's all about huge visual boards, which is, you know, the huge lights you can see at airports and, you know, the big buildings and so on.
Okay, so I'm ready to share. Hope you guys.
Clitoria ternatia and pandanus, 100% edible botanicals. Cook it, bake it, drink it. Check out healthy recipes and great offers on mybluetea.com.au/TV.
So Veronica, do you want to talk about this page on Facebook?
This particular product that we are selling for a client, the product name is a flower which is called Clitoria ternatia, which is quite unique. So of course we are so restricted with what we can do with the ad. For example, we can't use the name superfoods and all that stuff. Because it is a legitimate scientific name, we actually play around with that, and that was right. We put that word right in the beginning of the ad, and then later to say that, you know, it is actually something that you can eat it, you can drink it, you can bake it, and so on. And it, of course, you know, attract a lot of curiosity. How come you can eat a Clitoria ternatia, and how do you do that? So with the video, you can see on the right hand side, this is where we start tagging the products to the video, where you can buy the product straight off while watching the video.
Okay, that's great. I'm gonna go into the next one. Let me find the other ad.
So in terms of how we use visual communications is, it saves a lot of time, right? When people are, rather than they read all the text, it saves a lot of time when they need to pass on messages. There's a lot of clarity as well. So it makes things more simple, more memorable. You know, and images makes things a lot more flexible and effective, right? Because if you have lots of text and you want to sell your products to different cultures, different countries, then images would be easier to understand. It's a lot easier to have consistency for branding, because you can have a similar look and feel, and also better retention of information.
Yeah, so these two commercials I'm going to play are picked by Stuart. Stuart, do you want to talk about it first, or should I play it first?
Play them. Play them both first, actually. Yep,
okay, cool. I'll do that.
Guarda il mare quanto è bello, ispira tanto sentimento, come quando tu mi pensi, mi risvegli e fai sognare. Guarda un po' questo giardino, guarda il mare quanto è bello, mi risvegli e fai sognare. Guarda un po' questo
next wave of Italians has come to America, and they've come to party. The Italian-designed Fiat 500. Let's have some fun.
I'm going to get to the next one, which is this one.
The British are coming! The British are coming! Wait, it's the Italians. The Italians are coming! The Italians are coming!
The 5-passenger Fiat 500L. The revolution just got bigger.
This is going to be so much better than the Tea Party.
Guarda il mare qua.
Right, Stuart, over to you.
Yeah, so the last scene of that last ad's sort of a bit more sexual references in that, but that's okay. That's but anyway, when I was looking for examples of different styles of ads, I was drawn to these ads because actually I have an emotional attachment to Fiats. It's a bit embarrassing, but as I was growing up, my dad owned around about 10 Fiats, and we had 5-seater family sedans and sports versions and that type of thing. My brother and I used to just sit in the car and pretend we're racing car drivers. So we sort of had that emotional attachment to Fiats in general. These two examples, they have a similar storyline. They're basically, showing the migration of Italians to America. The first one, as you saw, there's no sexual references. It's got a great storyline. It's all about the cars, leaving Italy and arriving in America, and just creating a lot of attention, as a truly unique car to the American market. The second one, it portrays the sexual side of the Italians, or basically, sorry, I mean the Fiat 500 in general. But yeah, the big question is, did these ads actually work? It's always hard to tell whether just one ad alone, helps sell something. There's a combination of a lot of things overall, but generally speaking, they should have worked. They put a lot of money and a lot of production went into them. They use songs sung by international artists, such as Arena and the global superstar Pitbull, which was at the end of the first ad. Sort of basically trying to capture the passion and energy of America in general. Overall, the sales did increase, over that period. It was 2012 and 2013, but they have plummeted over the years. And now in 2020, the cute, sexy little Fiat 500s no longer available to purchase new in America. Why did the product fail? I think simply put, the car in general, it's not what the Americans needed. They didn't need a small little hatchback to run around in. They travel in the cities. They travel around in taxis basically, and use their larger cars. So overall, they just didn't fit the market, and there was no pain point there to solve the audience's problem. So yeah, that's generally why I think that the car itself didn't work, no matter how hard they tried. So
That's an interesting point. Yeah. So Stuart brought out a very interesting point. The product did not address a pain point. They sold on fantasy, they sold on a movie, but they didn't try to address a problem or a need in the market, which is unfortunate. Yeah.
But sometimes you don't have to address a need in the market. You address a want, a desire in the market, especially when there are products that are being introduced, as in particular the technology space, where products are really new and people don't think they need them. Like, for example, when the iPhone came out, mobile phones came out, nobody ever dreamed that they need a mobile phone. So it became, you have to market it as a desire, and now it's like a necessity, right? So sometimes you have to, you know, look at how visual can persuade people and elicit emotions, okay?
Okay, I'm going to go to the next one. So Veronica, you want to take over from here? Because do you want to go into Lloyds Bank straight away?
Let me just give a background of this. We know that, I call it the 21st century sex appeal because, you know, we know that since last June 2019, the CPA, which is the Committee of Advertising Practice, had banned what they call harmful gender stereotypes in ads, right? Which means if it shows any form of eroticism, objectification, fascism, machoism, the ad cannot be approved, right? So that means people who have been used to selling sexual appeal ads, especially in the fashion space, perfume and all that stuff, would have to change the way they sell. So I put here, Wonder Bra was a good example. From the old time they had Hello Boys to now Hello Me. So the women who are in those ads would have to show self-confidence that they are also, you know, good in the game, in the industry, and they are all confident. And I have put the other ads there, for example, Links Find Your Magic, where they don't have only for macho men, but it's also for geeks and, you know, the shy males and all that stuff. And Original Source Shower Gel, there was a bit of a sexual element, but they did it so cleverly, okay? So Lloyd Bank is one, is, you know, is a big bank. So, and it's a big corporate. So how do they do it? And it's quite clever. So I'll let Jojo play the video so you could see how they did it.
Okay, I'm going to try and play the video without this one.
No, we haven't talked about it openly.
Prefer to keep it private.
This is such a subject.
Well,
we have had a few issues.
It isn't easy talking to your family about money, but it is important. The M word from Lloyds Bank. It's good to talk about money.
Well, like I said before, visual communications is to attract and elicit emotions, right? People nowadays are very tired of the norm.
I know, I need to stop. Hang on. I need to stop sharing. What's going on?
Okay, so people need to share visuals in different ways, right? And they can only digest what they call micro content. So, and they have to turn this negative connotation and present it into a positive light, and turn the conventional of understanding of that negativity. So how do you use visuals to attract, right? And it's about whether you can drive humor in there, and you know, have an activity within the image in your brain, and also to showcase beauty. So if you do that quite cleverly, then you should be able to attract attention. One good example is to throw things out of context is Book for Dummies and the Be Stupid campaign for diesel jeans, where they actually throw people out of context. So Book for Dummies at that time, the people would think, oh, you think I'm stupid or something, but the book really sells. It makes things easy for people who want to learn things fast. And diesel jeans had a whole range of sexual campaigns, but they did it so cleverly and you know, challenged the norm of being stupid, having the guts to be stupid and all that stuff. And in the end, they followed up with another campaign and to say that, well, sex sells, but we actually sell jeans, right? So you have to look at how you present your catchphrase, how you have the context for the whole image, how you draw attention to other parts of the images, and how the brain works, right? How the audience can deconstruct the meaning of it, okay? So I'll let FangTing continue on, you know, how you can easily put all the visual comms assets together. When you do, and then Jojo, are we going to discuss about the risk of, you know, what are the risks of sexual ads and stuff like that?
Yeah, we can. Let me just run through this first.
Okay.
Yeah. So FangTing, over to you.
Thanks, Juju. So maybe we can just first start off by kind of sharing what my viewpoint on, well, definition of visual comms is, because it's quite a, I guess, a broad term. So from myself, I actually view it from a more technical level. So it's how a brand uses different assets like color, like typography, photography style, or like video style, like what you saw in the ads, and how they actually bring all those different facets together to give consumers an impression of what your brand is. And all these kind of come to life through visual communications assets. Over here, kind of a macro view for you. So visual comms assets can, you know, come in the form of digital. So you have stuff like your website, you need all your visuals on your landing page, and then you have your social, your profile pictures, your social posts. Even when you blog nowadays, it's no longer just text anymore. You need lots of visuals, infographics to kind of speak to your customers. And then you have EDMs, presentations, all your divider slides, the pictures that accompany all your text. And then of course you have digital ads. So these are all living in more of the digital space. And then you have also the print side of things. If you click Jojo, yeah. So unfortunately nowadays, everything's going digital. Not too many people do print stuff anymore, which is a pity because I love print. I love the tactile feel. But people still have to invest in things like business cards, the first thing you give out when you meet people, marketing brochures. And if you have a service, well, not a service, if you have a product, then you have packaging. And then posters, newsletters, event graphics. So visuals kind of have to live in this world. I think sometimes people forget, they just want to rush something out, and visuals are just like something that they slap on, but actually there's a lot more to it. And maybe I can just share sort of like a framework on how to actually get to creating kind of consistent and effective visual comms assets. So should you go to the next slide? I'll kind of share a step-by-step framework to getting to effective visual comms assets. So the first step, before you even think about anything visual, you need to really understand what your brand is, understand your positioning, who you're talking to, what your key selling point is, and what you want to say basically to your customer. So you really need to understand this first before you can even think about translating it into visuals. So once you have that in place, which is really important, that's when you can start thinking about, you know, how your brand manifests itself in a visual format. And so that's when you look at things like more technical things like your logo. You start with your logo, and then you look at things like typography, what kind of typeface represents your brand, your color palette, your illustration style, how your photos are shot, your products, your people, are they like really posed? Sometimes people just use like stock images and then your brand comes across really like cold and kind of like generic. And even things like visual layout, like how you lay out your text. Is your font like really big or is it really small? So all these things people often overlook. I feel like it just becomes, it's visual comms, but it becomes invisible to people. But these are all the little things that come together and give people the impression of what your brand is saying. So once you have that all in place, that's when you can actually start to develop your visual comms assets in all the different touch points that I shared before. So it's really important to kind of like establish all these in place before you start, doing your name card, getting someone to do your website, getting someone to do ads or flyers. Because if you just like jump straight to step 3 without really going through step 1 and 2, your brand kind of starts to look quite inconsistent. So every time you do something, it looks, it doesn't look the same and it's saying something different. So it doesn't become very coherent anymore. So it's quite important to kind of like step back and view the whole process and remember that each step is really important. And I thought I would share an example to kind of illustrate that point. So I'm not sure if everybody knows this brand. It's called Casper. It's a mattress brand from the US. It's actually quite a disruptive brand because I guess generally the whole process of buying a mattress is quite boring. You go to a store, you pick out a mattress, you probably like lie on the mattress and try it out. And it's generally expensive and not a very exciting thing to do. So what Casper did is they kind of reinvented the category. They positioned themselves as very accessible, very young. So I don't think mattress brands before this really spoke to anybody like young. It's probably like married couples or old people. So they reinvented the category by repositioning the mattress industry. And what's interesting is that they kind of packaged mattresses in a very easy to ship format. So you just basically order your mattress online and they have all the info for you to do that. And you just click and then it gets sent to you in this little box and then the mattress is like folded in and you roll it out. So it makes it super easy, super accessible, and fun, and a fun experience in general. So that's their brand strategy, and how that manifests into a visual format. It's informed by their brand strategy. So everything that they do visually is modern, it feels convenient, it's affordable, and it speaks to a younger audience. So the logo, for example, is super clean and sleek. I don't think you would, if you look at that, you probably wouldn't think of a mattress brand. It's probably like, I don't know, in Singapore, it's like King Coil. It's like really boring and old and dusty. But this is like, oh, it's like almost like a tech feel. So it's really clean and crisp. And then if you have the typography also, it's really simple, very sleek. It's what we call sans serif font, very modern. And I think I chose this little clip snippet because if you notice the headline says the reviews are in and we're the best in bed. So tying it back to the topic, you don't have to be overtly sexual in your communications, but something like that does the trick without, like being like the Dolce & Gabbana sexy, shiny ad. And then color palette, you have a very modern, very youthful, pastel, bright, fresh palette. And then we have, illustration style and icon style. People, tend to just like pick stuff online for free and they all look very generic, but here they actually invest in getting an illustrator to create something like super quirky, super fun, and really ownable to them. And then photo style. So photography is like a big part. Like, we saw before, like in all the previous slides, photography is like a super big part of visual communications, and typically, I guess, what consumers remember the most. But there's actually a lot of thought behind it, and how you brief the photographer, what you want to capture, how you want to, what you want people to do, what you want them to wear, how your products are shot. So there's a lot of thought that goes into with the final product that you see in photos. And lastly, there's also visual theme and layout. So if you want to make your brand really ownable visually, you have to kind of try and think, you know, beyond your colors and your illustrations and photos. Like, is there something like graphically you can own? So with Casper, they tend to use like this little border and then this Casper tag that you see on the mattress itself. So again, when you see it, it becomes very branded and very ownable. So overall, this is how taking the brand strategy of being modern, convenient, affordable, and young kind of translates into a more technical level. This gives you like the fundamentals of creating really consistent and effective visual comms assets. So I'll show you how they do it. So that's the third step in the next slide. So using all the different elements you created from your brand identity, then you can start applying it to all your assets. So for example, their core product's a mattress, so they translate that into packaging, which is super sleek. You don't, you know, it comes in a really neat box with like nice graphics, and then your pillows as well. It's you don't expect a pillow to come out of something like that. And then infographics, they take a lot of time to create really short, snappy, and very visually appealing infographics, because it's a digital like service in a way. Like you have to log on to their website to buy. You don't really get to try the mattress, so they give you all the info you need to kind of choose what's the best mattress for you. And then there's also like the blog. So all the visuals that come with the blog post kind of reflect again all the brand messaging. So the kind of visuals that you choose, very sleek, very clean, very modern, and fun. And then we have, your website. So featuring usually websites where you see photos the most. So you need a really striking image at the header to kind of like grab and really instantly communicate to people what your brand is all about. And then social media is another touch point where visuals are just, you just need visuals basically. Nowadays, people hardly even post text anymore on Instagram. It's all visuals, and that's what people see. So you need to kind of carry the theme through all your little tiles. And then you have print ads. And lastly, I think what's most interesting is experience. Like when people experience a product, like, you know, in a roadshow or something, you know, beyond your logo, you know, you think about how else your graphics can come into play in an experience and to enhance the overall experience and just make it a 360 kind of like experience that people can remember and tie back, and so that the brand recall is there essentially. So I think the next slide kind of just ties everything together and shows you how, you know, it fits into that framework I showed you earlier. So step one, you have your brand strategy for Casper, for example. You know, it's modern, convenient, affordable, and it speaks to a young audience. And then how that translates into a visual brand identity, they make very specific choices that reflect that. So in terms of your logo, your typeface, your color palette, illustration, you know, photo style, and your visual theme and layout, everything ties back to your brand strategy. And then when that's in place, then you can slowly roll it out to all the different touch points, digital and print. Yeah.
Thanks, FangTing. Any questions from anyone so far?
I do have some comments to make.
Hang on.
We talk about you know, using sexual appeal and all that stuff for ads. I just want to highlight a particular research that was done some time ago, where they have really highly sexual content and ask the audience about a brand recall or brand message. And everyone remembers, you know, the people in that sexual image. But no one, or very, very few, could recall who was advertising it, which brand was advertising it, or could they recall what was that message about in that ad. So you're spending a lot of money getting all these beautiful models, but you don't sell the product in the end because nobody remembers what you're trying to sell. So it's not just about sexual content, but whatever visuals you're doing, then you have to go back to your drawing board of understanding your audience and your brand message and your intent before, you know, you go and dive straight into visuals, right? So and this particular Casper, you can see that they have a whole integrated campaign around this. It's not just one print ad or one TV ad. It's everything. It includes the blogs, the social media, the email campaigns, the posters, and everything. And that is exactly what we did with the blue tea. When we did the TV ad 30 seconds, we created a TV channel as a blog on the website. We created the Instagram, the social media, and we tagged the products and so on. So it's a whole integrated campaign that brings people to various stages of their buying cycle. And you know that people have to look at a particular visual at least 7 times before they actually respond to a purchase.
Yeah, thanks, Veronica. There was a comment as well. Was that from you, Mike? Mike?
Yes.
Yep. Did you have something to say earlier, or because I wasn't sure who else was trying to speak?
No, I follow the step process.
Yeah.
I was sorry, it's Adam. I was going to ask about
Adam.
You guys doing like the brand guidelines then. So I think for the blue tea examples, like the finished products and then the finished campaign, right? And then you've gone through a case here. So do you offer that kind of brand guidelines, creating that as part of, as one of your services, working with brands?
Yes, FangTing does that.
Yeah, yeah. That's so essentially that step 2 is essentially all the components that fit into the brand guidelines. So what you'll get out of step 2 is essentially distilled into a brand guidelines, which is handed off or used as a guide by all the people who are developing step 3 for you.
Right, but you can also do step 3 as well, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so I just want to bring up a point that Veronica had raised earlier. But I keep this screen on because she talked about visual communications, right? We use visual content, visual assets to do 3 things. One is to attract people to your brand or your product or your service. And the other one is to get people's attention, just to raise their curiosity. All right, find out a little bit more about what you guys do or what this service is all about or what this product is all about. And then the last thing is to evoke emotion. You need them to act on an impulse or act on something. So that's where we need visual comms to really get the message through and get them to act. So if you look at some of the work that we do, we try to tie that back into the products or the services that we sell for our clients. In this case, if you look at visual comms, right at the end, there is the experiential, the part about right at the bottom here. You can see the little Casper roadshow. What I do I actually volunteer on outside of work, and I help with cat rescue organization. So I find that when we do events or roadshows, we bring our cats out. All right, suddenly our booth will be very crowded. But when people came, they'll come and talk to us, pet the cats and all that. When they walk away, they will ask for something. Then we'll say that, okay, here's a flyer or here's a brochure about what we do, and how you can join us, how you can volunteer with us, or how you can support our cause. And they'll be so happy to take it away. We've actually had QR codes as well. We've got QR codes and we've got actual flyers, but they'll always take the flyer. Okay, for some reason, they'll always take the flyer because they want to touch and feel and then refer to something. It's very different. I find that when we do actual event where people can come and experience what we do or what service you offer, they will actually want something to touch and feel and walk away with it. Any comments from anyone? Okay, great. So I'll get to the last slide. So bottom line is that when we do look at visual communications, it's really whole part of the whole marketing mix. Number one is that you have to understand your own brand, what it stands for, what it wants to do, how you want to come across to your audience. All right. And number two is really understand your customer. in the old days, where you can do an ad and do a pray and spray, even for PR, you can just send out a press release and you think that you will reach everyone. But no, it doesn't work that way. You can put out something in the newspaper and hope that it touches everyone. But in today's age, where a lot of things is digital, the platforms are digital, you have a choice to really go target at the particular customer that you're aiming for. So it's, for example, if you're selling blue tea, it's not just everyone, right? You're targeting a certain segment of the market, and you need to know who they are, have that persona in mind, the person that you want to sell to, and aim your ad at them, at that person. Now, number 3 is to be clear, simple, and consistent. A lot of times, without that brand guideline, without the visual identity, it depends on who picks the visuals, right? So then it comes across as being completely inconsistent, because sometimes you can have this look and feel, and other time you can have another look and feel. So really should have that brand guideline and really be clear, very simple, and very consistent with your audience. That's all from me. Anyone else?
Yeah, I just want to highlight another research from UK actually, which talks about how people respond or what people respond to when it comes to visual communications. One is if there is an abstract of love, sex, youth, power, being rebellious, have a sense of security, glamour, your roots, your culture kind of thing, self-gratification, health, and elitism. So these are the factors that you have to consider whether your brand would want to show love, for example. So one good example is Cadbury moving from a sexual ad for their Cadbury Flake to human kindness. I don't know whether you saw the latest Cadbury where this little girl wanted to buy a birthday present for the mother, but she has no money. She brought her little toys to the mama shop, and the Indian shopkeeper actually gave her a Cadbury which she can present to the mother for her birthday. So that's how a lot of people are now changing the way they are advertising. But as long as your ad shows, youth, love, power, all the elements that I've shown, that will kind of attract attention.
That's right. Anyone else have anything to say?
Yeah, I've got a question. So when can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Hi, Mark.
Hi. So when it comes to sex, how much of it is usually part and parcel of the brand's DNA, which is, sort of like a Haagen-Dazs, and how much of it is just simply used as a one-off communication idea? And is there do you approach it differently when it's those two different ways of approaching sex?
It depends on what you are, what your brand stands for.
Right.
For example, for Vermilion Pinstripes, our brand stands for confidence. So we do not usually have a sexual element to all our visuals. But because recently we have been working with clients who ask for, bikini-clad models and and a lot of these things that they sometimes forget what the brand message is and what they were trying to sell, and keep harping on what kind of models they want. That trigger us to do this little webinar. And when we had the heading Sex Sells, which is a one-off thing that we do, it did a lot of attract a lot of people to our website, and I could see the number of hits we have on this, right? So yes, it did attract, and it depends, again, like what I say, your brand purpose and your brand look and feel, and whether you have a sexual element or sex appeal to attract your audience. people in fashion, in perfume, use that a lot more. But people in banks or, you know, they may have different I guess ways of doing it. Banks in the past they did try, so that's why I showed the Lloyd Bank case. Medical, there is some, but they use it as a way to explain, you know, healthcare, for example. So it really depends on the brand.
Right. Okay.
So does sex sell? I think we could come to a conclusion through a vote. For the Fiat ads, who prefers ad number 1 or who prefers ad number 2?
Which is ad number 1?
The one with the Americans are coming, the cars going from Italy to America. Yeah, you don't remember that ad. Thank you. That answers Mark's Adam's question.
Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, I want to point out to Mark's question that about how much of it is the brand's DNA. It really depends on the brand and the market segment. For ice cream, for example, Magnum as a brand, they didn't shy away from using sexual imagery or experiential stuff. So they had launched some products in Singapore a few years back. The Magnum ice cream, and they took up a few hotel rooms and they dressed them up into different types of kitschy looking scenes and with models. Okay, so a different room for a different experience, but still very sexual. So, and they invited media and bloggers to go in there to experience it, and so people could blog or Instagram or Facebook about it. So they created an opportunity for the media and the bloggers to create pictures and all that and sell for them. So in other words, they use sex to generate more coverage for them so that it send out a buzz. But you know, they're just selling ice cream.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So and it's expensive ice cream. Okay. But recently they stopped. They switched to something a little simpler or more wholesome one. So again, it goes back to the target audience that they were gunning for.
Yeah, it's not targeted to kids.
No, they were talking at $5 a stick of ice cream. You know, $5 Aussie. you cannot target at kids.
But back to Adam's vote 1 or 2, right? Yeah. I remember 1 because I was wondering how many cars they had to drown into the sea. But then later they put there is a visual kind of thing, so it's not real. So I said, oh, okay, at least they're not wasting money. So
I like
my attention.
I like 1 because it switched from being Italian over to American, but it was the second ad, the girls taking off their clothes. I was like, okay, what's going on here? So I stayed for that one. Yeah.
The second ad was like, okay, like I said, you know, sexual appeal has become the norm for too long that people don't get turned on by it anymore. So you have, and that's why in any visuals, right, whether it's video or whatever, we have to keep looking at clever ideas on how to present it differently, whether there's sex involved or not, but just to get the attention of people, right? So FangTing, you prefer 1 or 2?
I liked 1 just because it was so incredulous seeing the cars like go into the water. And then 2, I just I couldn't connect with it. I was like, what's going on? Why are these people taking off their clothes? What does this have to do with the cars? I didn't really like get it personally. So one felt more like, oh, that's interesting. And I'll remember that more than like them taking off their clothes, and that was strange.
Okay, we have to ask Stuart and Robin. Stuart, which one? Stuart, are you still there? Oh no.
Robin? Can't hear you. I'm trying to unmute you. Hang on.
Yeah, Robin, can you hear now? Can you speak?
Well, Adam, while they're trying to unmute, what was your choice?
Yeah.
One or
Well,
two?
come on, there's no contest.
You know, there could be a real male-female divide here amongst.
Well, that could be an interesting insight, right? Could be an interesting insight.
Okay, so Mark and Robin.
Oh, I prefer number two.
Robin prefers number two. Okay, Mark.
Yeah, I thought there was more. Well, I thought there was more of a story to it that I was more interested in following, and obviously the girls at the end, obviously.
What about Mark?
I thought number one. I thought it was more single-minded. I thought the women were more distracting, and if size matters, I don't see a Fiat fulfilling the bill there.
Okay, what about Mike?
Is he muted?
Oh, Mike, are you still there? I don't see him anymore.
Or maybe Marin?
I like the first one. I like how they kind of humanize the cars.
Yeah, okay.
I thought it was really cute. You know, like cars going somewhere on their own.
Yeah.
I've also watched Disney Cars many times. I have a 5-year-old.
Oh yes.
I think I felt
You watched, yeah. Okay, cool. We've come to the end of our webinar. Do you guys have any further questions? Does anyone has any further questions?
Stuart is not unmuted, but if you can mute yourself, then we can hear.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yes, Stuart. 1 or 2.
Hello. Oh, yeah, sorry, the signal dropped out. Then I don't know what was going on, but yeah, no, I have to admit, number 2 was the first one I saw, and that got my attention to look further into those ads. So I'd have to vote for number 2, definitely.
Okay.
It took you some effort to find number 1, right?
Yeah.
For
because
comparison.
In your spare time, just search for 500 ads, and they get a lot more sexualized the more ads you see. So number 2 is definitely my vote, but definitely worth a look at the other ones as well.
JJ, you were saying that there are some regulations now in terms of how much sexual or overt sexual content can be included in communication. What country was that?
UK,
Veronica, yeah.
Australia. Australia has now saying that poses for women has to be confident and show that they are in control of the situation, basically.
I see. Yeah. Adam, what about in China? Because I remember that they would impose restrictions on all sorts of things when it comes to how particularly women are being presented. Is that still the case or no?
I think it's changed a lot. Well, yes, traditionally it would be. One thing I looked at is on WeChat, now they've got something called channels, which is kind of like short video content that you can just scroll through. That's to kind of combat the TikTok. So, I mean, like, I was quite surprised looking at this in the last 7 days. I've just opened it now. The first one on is a man, an old man with a gun against a woman, and then he just touched her top area. And there's quite a lot of kind of girls dancing and that type of sexualized content. So I was quite surprised.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Seeing that, yeah.
Because I remember in the past, I did work with MTV, and the Chinese government there, they would control the amount of distance between their chin down to where it is that their shirt would end. And so it used to be controlled quite severely, but maybe it's opened up now. Yeah.
Interesting.
in Singapore, I don't think we have any regulations per se. I mean, the Advertising Association does have some guidelines, about truths, facts, etc. But when it comes to how we present women, no. But recently, though, okay, there was a case. 3 DJs, they came out and they created their own channel, and it's called OK Let's Go or something like that. So they create a series of podcasts, and they're very popular. They typically speak in Malay language, but anyway, so they've got sexual banter on their show because it's 3 guys, right? So they talked about, they commented like, the size of a person's boobs or whatever, or whether they like this person's bum or not, that kind of stuff. So and then their listeners had actually called out on these. Okay, so they didn't back down on that. They decided to just continue that. But what happened was that the president of Singapore, which is a lady, she posted about them on her Facebook page. She called out their behavior. And so they decided to apologize. So it brought a lot of attention because, suddenly it's like, wait, why is the president talking about this 3 guys? Suddenly like, people are like, oh, wait a minute, this is not right.
She made them famous.
Well, they were already famous for a wrong reason, and now they were even more famous for the wrong reason. So they backed down, okay, from their stand. So yes, it does reflect the changing attitudes towards how women are treated. But anyway, so how we use sex to sell.
Yeah.
Right.
But ads have moved from the past to, women, when they advertise for Hoover vacuum cleaners, that, they are doing all the housework. But nowadays, you see the ads, the men are also doing the housework as well in the ads. So it's a family chore thing.
Our stand is that it goes back to the target audience and it goes back to the brand. So you've got to marry both the brand and the audience and what you want to say to them in their whole communications and marketing campaign.
The clients that you end up dealing with, do they have a clear idea of what they want, or do you play a role in helping them determine the direction that they should be moving in?
It depends on the project that we deal with the client. For example, the one that we did with the sunglasses, we have to kind of steer them into thinking why they want to use bikini-clad women more than showing their brand purpose, which is clearing the oceans and using sustainable materials and all that stuff. So in the end, they got it, and we actually changed the whole storyboard.
Right, I see.
So, Mark, I just want to answer your question, whether it's B2B or B2C. Typically, the clients will come to us and say that they want something like video or visual done, but it's because they saw a competitor do something, and they said they liked it. Can we copy it? That kind of stuff. So there's often this, but we say that, you need to create your own. You need to own something and do your own so that it's different and it's fresh and it fits what you're trying to communicate, what your brand is all about and who you're targeting. So yeah, sometimes a trigger is really because they saw a competitor and they just want to copy. But yeah.
I think that's coming back to that brand guidelines. If you can do that kind of document and go through that process is good, because it also means you can charge them. You can say that you've gone through that process. Here's the documentation, and then you can cost it out separately.
Yeah. So not everyone believes in that, but you're right. It is very important to have that.
And if I can just add to that, the brand guidelines is not just a visual guide, but it actually should also include everything about your brand strategy. So it's like it gives people context, like your suppliers, your creative partners, like kind of context on who they're talking to. So it's kind of like a little go-to booklet for your brand, essentially.
Okay, cool.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for
Thank
being on
you.
this call.
Very enjoyable.
I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.
Take
care, everyone. Stay safe.
Bye.
See you, Jenny.
Bye-bye.
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 You stop recording?
Oh, hang on. I can't see without my specs. Okay.